Well, hello, it's Rockin' Larry Lockin. For those of you who have paid any attention to my work for any amount of time, you might notice that sometimes I like to have a little fun and mess around with the GFL station a little bit and put commentary on their weekly posts and stuff like that. I only do that because I think the world of them. I want people to know seriously. Being a channel myself, their channels are all phenomenal. I'm a tough grade. If I was going to grade every single person I've ever heard channel for the GFL station, I'd say 75% of them that I've ever heard are fucking great all the way through at it. The other 25% I'd say are really, really, really good. Really good. And like I said, I'm a little bit harsh of a grader when it comes to critiquing things like that. So, yeah, they're dynamite, but, I wouldn't have fun with them and do that. If I didn't like their shit, I just wouldn't mess with it, you know. Make innuendos about it here and there, but I don't try not to throw people under the bus too much, but, but I don't hesitate to say something if I think their channel, um, doesn't jive or if their agenda seems off. It's not really that their channeling wouldn't jive because it's all valid, right? But it's their agenda sometimes, and it, but I don't really call anybody out by name. But certainly wouldn't do this. I think the GFL station in particular is wonderful how they do everything. They really know what they're doing, and I'll leave it at that because it'd be too much to get into explaining. Um, but they really do things the right way, and they really know what they're doing to boot, right? It's for the right reasons, and they know what they're doing. For sure, yeah. I got to thinking about disclosure again, about how this whole thing. I think what everybody's wanting, because, I've been a contactee for a long time, and I'm one of those people that will say that, there already has been disclosure. A couple presidents have admitted to it. Basically, they just haven't had a press conference. Another former first lady did, and it's like so. And there's those of us who have had contact with them. So, you know, and then it comes down to, is it a case of, well, I want people to believe me that are close to me. I need them to believe me about this, and that can be the case sometimes too. I think how this whole thing is going to play out, though, because people always talk about one big event happening, right? Oh, that's been going on for ever since I've been following along in this community, 16 years. Oh, the big event, the big event. You think it's bad now? you know, every month it was going to be the big mass fucking sightings in the sky and landings and shit and meeting with the president and all that shit. Hey, it is what it is. But the way I think this is going to go down, it's not going to be one big, huge overnight mass thing or even a couple nights. As we pick up more momentum, what'll happen is there will be, like they've always said, increased sightings, but I mean profound ones, right? To where it's starting to then happen every month, every week, and I mean worldwide reported ones that even have to make the mainstream news. And then what'll happen is there'll be this period of time where we go through this. It'll be remembered like fads were and shit. Oh, it was cool to be in the disco era, the hippie era. Remember when the UFOs were first coming here? Well, we'll be in this era where then what'll happen is the real disclosure will actually be, I think what everybody's looking for is validation. And the real disclosure will be when, okay, hey, no matter really where you're at all, at any time, it would never be feel weird or inappropriate to just talk about extraterrestrials and UFOs. And eventually become like second nature, nothing, right? It's just accepted by everyone, right? And it's undeniable, and even the people that are freaked out because they think they're evil, I mean, there'll be some of that, but, well, they'll have to get over it. I mean, I really don't know what to tell them. I try to have empathy and feel for that kind of state of mind because it is a powerful fucking thing to come to grips with, I'm sure. I can only step aside and look at it from a standpoint of, would it be that powerful? And it's a pretty big deal, right? Even when you've been channeling them forever like I have, right? It's a pretty big deal. Even when it becomes like old hat, like, it's just them. Yeah, but it's still at the same time, it's a big fucking deal. It's like taking it for granted, but not taking it for granted. It's weird because it's so powerful. And I can understand that, but I think that's what people are looking for is validation. Yeah, and they want to be able to talk about it in open and not have to ever worry about where they are. That's a lot of people's concern with it. then a lot of people, I'm not sure, have the most realistic thoughts upon how it would all go down. Well, just like with this thing that was sent out by the White House last week or whenever it was, right, with the Nordic aliens, and it got traction quick and was all over the internet, right? And Trump was meeting with them on the South Lawn. And the only thing that mystified me about the whole thing was I was wondering if people were just fucking with people or if they were really serious, that they thought there was something to it. You know, if something like that would have been for real, okay, there would have been no possible way that the mainstream media could have even held that back and shit, but yet it'd be all over social media if it were, you know what I mean? Okay, there's some things that would be out there and everybody on the planet would be seeing this shit. It'd be that big of a deal. Okay? And they don't really do the politicians thing. That's not what they're here about. And then when they start to introduce themselves into our society, what I forgot to say earlier too was, yeah, they'll start coming out more with people that contact them and be introduced, and that's how they'll phase their way into our society. It'll be kind of backdoored with people that have been in contact with them this whole time. The government, they're not really going to play a whole big role in this. You know, may get a visit from them or something. Well, after they visited everybody else, but yeah, it's not really like that. And I wouldn't count on it to be. But we'll see how it goes, right? I mean, it hasn't happened in this particular realm yet. Of course, they've been here forever at contacting people, but I get what people are saying to where it's just an accepted fact. We'll see where it goes. I was reading some of the notes on here and I saw a little bit about what the guy who channeled Ashtar had to say, and he does a good job. I was never really before a big Ashtar command guy, but I like his job doing it, and I like what he does with Ten Hand and Valir as well too. A great channel, this guy. It's the same dude, but it was inferred that this was done out of humor, which I can see, and it's a good thing ultimately, right? It gets more people talking about it, okay? As long as people keep it in perspective. I think what I would encourage starseeds and light workers alike, though, to keep in mind is to, you know, calm down. Don't get so excited before you got all the truths. Think of it logically through a little bit. Use a little bit of earth logic with it. Before you completely just state 100% absolutely that it's a fact or that it's true. Or maybe you're just putting it out there because you're just putting it out there. Maybe you don't really think that. But I mean, if you're, if you want to give the impression that you know what you're talking about, I wouldn't put it out there as truth till you had it validated a little bit. And something that big of a fucking deal that went down just like that, yeah, that would be mainstream. It couldn't help it. It would go right over into it. Because if those kind of photos were really out there that happened, and then I even seen a video, there was a great AI video, and I mean, of course, I knew it was AI in a second because it wasn't how it looked. It was, I just know the energy of how this shit would go down, and that wasn't how it was going to go down. But it looked great. It looked like a complete replica of how you would look at CNN being on TV. Completely. Not a prop or anything. So, graphics, everything. Yeah, but just be careful. There's really no need to be careful, but I'm just saying if you are somebody that cares about putting the right information out there, then, vet it a little bit. And something like that wouldn't take much vetting. If it was that big of a deal, a story like that, yeah, there'd be no doubt about it. People that you didn't even ever think would even talk about a UFO would be watching the shit on TV, right? And it could, because it would be being shown everywhere. They'd break into news stories for this. It wouldn't just be some side story that they had. You know what I'm saying? Because if that happened with the government and they put it out there like that, that's how it would go down. Yeah, it'd be one thing to say, hey, if they kept it behind closed doors and these were some secret photos and yada, yada, yada. But when it's the kind of shit that I saw, yeah, that wouldn't happen, without everyone on the planet basically knowing it.